Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and you are listening to the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank everybody for joining me today. We've got a pretty interesting topic we're going to be talking about today. Steps that will push you to the level of the superior man. So today we're going to be talking about the book entitled The Way of the Superior Man. And this is a new book, for me at least. I was not aware of it. It's written by a guy named David Dita. The main portion of this book that particularly interested me was the very first chapter on being a man. Now there's a lot of different content out there regarding masculinity and stuff like that. But in this book, I think it maps it out very well because it offers a balance between the masculine, a very notable masculine energy that most definitely exists, but it also offers a balance between that and a feminine energy that absolutely exists. No matter what MSNBC or CNN tries to tell you, there is a difference between male energy and female energy. It exists. I know they're trying to cross this idea to where men are trying to become women. Trust me, that's all. If you go back to my engineering consent episode, that's part of that game right there. But we're trying to break those chains, and that's just the confusion they're trying to create. But we're trying to break those chains and really embrace and grasp that balance between masculine energy and feminine energy. And it's through the merger of those things that we create greatness in this world. Many of the things that I have done would not be possible. And any successful man will tell you this. I remember my granddad used to say this, that behind every successful man is a strong woman. And that's absolutely true. That balance between those two energies is vitally important, and it's something to really understand. I think this book really goes into it. I would probably say that I'm about at the halfway point of reading this book right now. But that first chapter regarding being a man, there were some powerful elements in there that I think really should be shared and talked about. So let me take a sip of my Mitacon here before we get started, because we know I'm probably going to get fired up in these. There's too much content out there right now that's really trying to bring men down and really degrade men on a certain level, and just the whole goal is tearing down that energy. But our goal here at the Barbarian Lounge, it's always been from day one, our goal has always been the empowerment of men. I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong. I'm here to offer options. I'm here to offer options that build up men, to build you up, give you the strength to just crawl your ass out of bed and do something different. Do something bold. Being a maverick in life. These are the problems that we see. We see too many people shuffling along. They go to work, come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to sleep, rinse, repeat. You've heard me talk about this all the time. But no one is really setting out to forge a legacy. And as I've said on multiple occasions, this is not me sitting cross-legged on a mountain telling you that I'm greater than you and I've come up with this and you are all scum, you bow down. That's not me telling you that. I was that person. This is what I cannot really seem to get across to a lot of people. I was that person. I was that person for 30 plus years of my life. I was that person. I was not the go-getter. I was not the businessman. I was not the entrepreneur. I was not the podcaster. This was not me. These are things that I have cultivated and I have learned through the powerful words of other men. Men who have achieved those levels. And if I can impart some of that knowledge to just one man, just one guy, I may not change the world myself, but that one thing that I say that you're hearing me right now in the world of podcasting, you're hearing me right now. You may be that guy. You may be that guy that hears these words, and you may be the one that I inspired to change something for the better. There's a chain of events. Life is based off of decisions. Life is based off of decisions we make, and those, whether we go right or left, can make a huge difference in where we end up in life. I think back, if you think about where you're at today and look back on all the things that you've done in life to get you where you are at this particular moment, right now, when I look back across mine, it's little small moves that didn't really make sense at the time, but now when I look back, I'm like, man, this day I decided to go here instead of there and do this instead of that, and look where I'm at now. It's amazing when you look at that. It's a empowering thing. It's something that you can really, that you can tangibly look at and grab. You can grasp it and say, I did this and made this move. And while that may be, and think about how far that took you just on a decision that you weren't really cognitive of. You just said, you know what, I'm going to go here today. Now, imagine the power that comes when you start making direct decisions that push you in a certain direction. There's a massive amount of power in that. And we're going to talk about those steps to pushing you towards that end goal. Pushing you towards that purpose that we all strive for, that is the end goal in life. So being a man, that's part of the Way of the Superior Man. You can find that book on Amazon. It's not very expensive. Like I said, some of the other stuff might seem a little kind of hokey to you, but this is powerful stuff in this book, and I think it's something that you at least need to open the doors to and understand. Being a man, 5 steps. We can knock this down into 5 steps, 5 easily digestible steps that you can follow to help you start getting closer to where you need to be in life. Number 1, stop hoping for the completion of anything in life. A powerful statement that I heard, I'm not sure where I originally heard it from. A powerful statement I heard is that hope is not a plan. Hope is not a plan. I hope that when we go, that when I make this trip tomorrow, I hope that nothing happens to the car. I hope that when I go to the grocery store, I have enough money. I hope that when I wake up tomorrow, everything goes as planned. Hope is not a plan. Plans are plans. We make plans. When you go on a trip, you make plans for that trip. Is my car up to service? Do I have enough money for gas? Have I plotted my course? Do I have the ability to fix a tire beside the road, even if it's got a hole in it? Can I do that? Do I have these things available? What if I break down? Do I have water? Do I have food? Do I have the ability to live in my vehicle for a day or two? These are all things I've talked about in prepping episodes. Hope is not a plan. And a lot of people go through life hoping that one day they're going to be able to do something. And as I said before, this is something that I've fallen victim to. Well, one of these days I'm gonna. How many times do you hear that from people? One of these days I'm gonna. No. If you're not doing it now, odds are you're not ever going to do it. If you're not making steps right now to do it, odds are you are never going to do it. The odds are not in your favor. Look at your life as being in a Vegas casino. You're the gambler. You're in there gambling away your time. You're in there gambling away your savings. Your savings could be your money, your position in life, all those things like that. Life is the house. The universe, if you want to call it. We'll call it the universe just to give it a separation between your life and it. We'll call it the universe. The universe does not care about all of your plans. The universe does not care about all of your hopes. The universe does not care if you can pay your bills tomorrow. It does not care. It has we hear all these ideas of such and such lives matter. Insert whatever keyword phrase you wish to there. Let me tell you something. The universe says no lives matter. It doesn't matter in the least bit. They don't care. It does not care. The universe will slap you. It'll beat you down. It will clobber you into the dirt and not lose an ounce of sleep over it. Not one bit. So what you have to do is you have to start forging steps to push you forward, because the universe, like I said, in that casino, the universe is the house. It's always going to win. It's always designed to win. The house always wins in the end. And in the end, the universe will always beat you. It will always beat you. I know it's like, well, that's kind of nihilistic, but look, there's 100% chance that you're going to die eventually. But the question is, what are you going to do while you're here? What sort of legacy do you leave behind you? I speak of my grandfather a lot. I think I've talked about him more than anybody else on this podcast. But my grandfather has been dead for many years now. Many, many years. But everyone still speaks his name. Everyone who knows him, everything he built before he left, everyone still speaks his name. He is still, in my family, he's the measuring stick to what other people are compared to. And it wasn't because that he lived this outlandish life and he was a rich man, but he always was pushing forward to get where he needed to be. He was a go-getter. He was always spry. Even the day he died, my granddaddy was a preacher. Even the day my granddaddy died, let me tell you what he did. He woke up that morning. He walked into the bathroom. He took a shower. He shaved his face. He went and put on his Sunday best suit. I think it was Easter morning when this happened. I could be wrong on that. It's been a while. Put on his Easter suit, went and sat in his recliner chair. He had his cologne on, just set to go, sat in his recliner chair, leaned back, closed his eyes, and died. That is literally how it happened. So even in death, he went out in style. We can all hope that when we go, that's the way we go as well, right? Not lying in our beds in some hospital somewhere. That's not the way to go. That's not the way to go. But people tend to fall into this horrible idea of this one day I will. I hear that so much. One day I will. I have a friend. Everybody knows that I've talked about it before. I'm going to devote a show to it eventually. I did professional wrestling for several years. And I had a friend who was training in professional wrestling. And he was an older gentleman. But it was his dream. He was just a wrestling fanatic. I've never met somebody that knew more about professional wrestling than this guy. Wrestling fanatic. He started training and it got really hard for him. And he had difficulty doing things. Rather than pushing through that difficulty, he quit. Okay. Well, he quit. And I heard from this guy for years and years and years. We would talk, and he would say, one day I'm going to get back in there. One day I'm going to get back in there. Well, a couple years ago, he had a stroke. He never got back in there. He had a stroke, and he's confined to a wheelchair. That one day for him is never going to come. It's never going to come. It's a great tragedy, and this is where the universe doesn't care about you. Sure, there are things he could have done in life to possibly change that, but you don't know. He may have, tomorrow, he may have, the day after he quit, and said, one day I'm going to get back in there. He may have got hit by a car. He may have gotten in a car accident. He may have had a heart attack. Who knows? Anything can happen. One day will never come. Today is the day. Not one day. Don't be that guy that has dreams of aspirations that one day you're going to complete this task in life. No, the day is today. If you could start making steps, you could start making steps right now to get closer to that goal. You don't have to all of a sudden complete your life's purpose in a day. That's not the goal. The goal is taking steps to start pushing yourself forward. When I stepped away from the job that I hated, one of the main things I did right off the bat was start making steps ahead of time. Start putting a little money back to cover the bills. I sacrificed certain things in life. Started making steps. Move here, move there, move this chess piece there. Life is like a chessboard in a way. It's kind of the grand chessboard. You're moving pieces around. It may seem insignificant. You're not taking pieces from the opposing side. But when the time comes, you move that one piece and you can look at it and say, checkmate, and you're gone. These are the steps you have to start making. A lot of people just going day to day, paycheck to paycheck, just moving on through life, just dragging here, dragging there, but they're not making steps. And this is what we have to do. This is what men do. And you can expect failure along the way. It's going to happen. My businesses right now with me running this podcast and running Odinson Archery, OdinsonArchery.com, running those businesses right now. Those are Those are at the bottom of a list of many failed endeavors throughout the years. I've tried so many different things throughout the years, and I failed, but the difference is I keep coming back. I keep coming back every single time. So you can expect failure. It's going to happen. But quoting the wise philosopher known as Yoda, either do or do not. There is no try. You don't say, I'm going to try and do better. Well, I'm going to try and do... No, you're either going to do better or you're not going to do better. It's very, very simple. That we come up with all these different excuses as to why we cannot do things. But the fact of the matter is, those are excuses created by you. Those aren't excuses somebody else threw on you. Those are things you created as a buffer between you and reality. And it's time to start breaking through that buffer. You have to accept responsibility for what happens. Plain and simple. As soon as you start accepting responsibility for the good and the bad that happens, you start gaining strength. You start gaining an immunity to the blows that life is going to put on you. One of the great powerful things that I did in life, which was, again, this was something I got from, I give credit where it's due, to Justin Garcia of the Pressure Project. If you haven't checked out the Pressure Project, check them out. Good group of guys. One of the things I got from them, from him in particular, was accepting responsibility for the good and bad. One of the bad pitfalls I used to have was I would say, I was running a martial arts school a while back, and I had trouble with students dropping off. And I was putting all the blame on the students. I was like, well, I don't know why people just won't come in. I'm just sick of them. They don't want to come in. They don't want to work hard. And I made all these excuses and put the blame on them. Well, that made it easy for me to close the school because I did not look at myself and say, well, what was I doing wrong? This is where you start accepting responsibility for your life. You look at yourself and you say, what did I do wrong? Why are students not wanting to come back to me? Once you do that, that takes all of the power away from other people and puts it in your hands. There's nobody to blame but yourself. What can I do better? What can I do to get students here? I run through the same thing. This is one of the reasons other endeavors that I've been doing recently have been more successful and are really allowing me to earn a living right now, is because I have accepted responsibility. When bad things start happening, I say, all right, what did I do to make this happen? And when you do that, it allows you to become stronger in your own sense of purpose. Number 2, don't get lost in tasks and duties. A lot of people get caught up in life's tasks. They, I gotta go here today, and I gotta go pick this up, and I gotta go to the grocery store. I gotta do that, and I gotta cut the grass when I get home, and there's a show I really like watching, so let me pick that, let me watch that. Before you know it, it's time to go to bed, and they rinse and repeat, and they just keep doing these things day in and day out. It's very easy to do with family, with work. I can't tell you how many people I see on like a lunch break. They're talking about work. I see a group of guys sitting there talking. They're like, yeah, well, such and such deal is supposed to be going through today, and blah, blah. Now, all these guys are caught up in the daily task of life, but they're not moving any closer to their purpose. When you're on your deathbed, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say that you did in life? Are you the sole? Is your existence completely based off of duties and tasks in life? Things that you feel like you have to do. That's the funny thing about these duties and tasks, is they kind of have an interesting way of making you feel like you have to do them. And what ends up happening is they end up maximizing all of your time. And the end goal of that is you're not putting your time forward towards your actual life purpose, your goal, what you actually want to do. I've heard this worded many times. This is a very powerful statement. If you were on your deathbed, what would you say that you wanted to do with life? What would everybody that's on their deathbed, you never hear anybody on their deathbed really talking about aspects of their life. You hear a lot of stories about, I wish I would have. If you could think to yourself right now, I wish I would have, those are the things you need to do. Those are the things you should be doing right now. There's a story that I've heard that is, again, it's another powerful statement. When you're on your deathbed, Imagine yourself surrounded by the ghosts of all the things that you could have done in life. You could have been this, you could have done that, you could have met this person, you could have gone here, you could have accomplished this, you could have wrote this book. All of these ghosts are surrounding your bed as you're dying. And they're haunting you, almost in the same manner as the Christmas Carol. You're like Ebenezer Scrooge surrounded by the ghost. But they're the ghosts of lives you could have had, things you could have done. All these ghosts are surrounding you, and they're wailing. They're wailing at you. They're saying, why? Why did you let us die? Why did we never get to come to existence? Now we must die next to you. Think about that. Think about that when you feel like you're getting caught up in these tasks in life, and you're not moving closer to where you need to be. The end goal is to start minimizing the time that you push forward towards these tasks and start maximizing the time for your life's purpose. And that's going to require a lot of things from you. It's going to require sacrifice right off the bat. If you think it's going to be easy and you think you're not going to have to sacrifice in order to get closer to where you need to be in life, you've already lost the game. You've already lost. I cannot tell you how much I've sacrificed. Me and my wife, we have nice things, but we have very minimal things. We have slowly started to shed away things in life that allowed us to live a plentiful existence with minimal things. The old adage of the things you own end up owning you. People get owned by an expensive car payment. Both of us have got used cars that work just fine. People get owned by a 600-channel television set. We don't have TV. These are all the things, these are little things that we did, sacrifice, and it may seem absolutely impossible. How am I going to live without my Walking Dead? You trust me, you can do it. You can do it. If you have to have TV, get Netflix or some shit. But these are all sacrifices you're going to have to make to move you closer to where you need to be. And people are not willing to sacrifice things for their life's purpose. And remember, when you're dying, those ghosts, they're going to be sitting there looking at you. You're going to have to answer to them. You're going to have to answer to the you that could have been, because you were more willing to have things over your purpose, over the things that you could have been. And that may require a lot of sleepless nights for you to start maximizing that time. I posted something just the other day where, I tried to get to bed early, and I was like, you know what, I got things I got to do. So I got up, and I did those, and I worked till about 2 a.m., went to bed, woke up 4 hours later, went right back to work. I'm shooting this podcast right now on 4 hours sleep or so. This is what we have to do. You can sleep when you're dead. You can sleep when you're dead. But right now, life is for the living. And that's what we have to embrace. We have to start maximizing our time and minimizing time towards duties and tasks. Maximize your time towards your life's purpose, the goals that you want. Number 3, be willing to change everything in your life. Now, that's a difficult thing for a lot of people. I, admittedly, am not a fan of change in the least bit. I don't even like it when my wife changes around the living room. I come home, I walk in the house, I open the door, I walk in the living room's changed around. I'm like, damn it. Like, it's like, oh God, you've ruined everything. That's the type of person I tend to be. So this has been something that's been very difficult for me. But there's a certain order that's created in life that is put before us. That, like, these are the things that you're supposed to do. You go to school, you get out of school, you go to college. After you get out of college, you get a job. After you get a job, you start a family. And all these paths are laid out before us. A lot of people are not willing to break those chains. Those are the chains of conformity. A lot of people are not willing to break those chains. Order and the resistance to change are one of the things that really, really hurts masculinity. The highest expression of masculinity is the ability to make a complete change in your life. Well, what does that mean? Children live a life of being controlled. They live a life where everything is controlled for them by the parent. The parent says, you go here, you eat this, you do that's a level of control. As you get older, as a man's life should be his own. He should make his decisions. But there's too many people who are out there living lives pushed on them by other people. They start to make a lot of excuses as to why they can't change, and we see that happen a lot, especially with people who have families. And I understand this greatly. They become resistant to this change because they're like, I have to look out for my family, and that I completely understand. I too have a family. But there are moves you can make. These are things you can start doing through the process of making steps. Things you can do. A lot of people will start to dismiss this idea of change. Well, if I do this, my family's going to suffer. Well, this is where the sacrifice comes in. One of the things, whenever we used to have Christmas times, I see a lot of people going dead around Christmas time because they're spending all this money on their kids, and they're like, oh, they got to have this, and the kids got to have the newest iPhone, and the newest this, newest that. Well, my daughter, she learned very early that, in Christmas, there may only be one or two gifts, and they may be very small. But that's the way we did it. And that's starting to ingrain a sense of the struggle that life can be. It's starting to tell her that, sometimes you have to make sacrifices in life to have the certain things that we have. We can spoil you one time throughout the year, or we can spend time as a family and go on vacations here, go on vacations there, do this. All these little teeny things throughout the year. And, Christmas just becomes another day that we spend together. And maybe a few presents here or there. But a lot of people are not willing to do that. They're not willing to make changes for the betterment of their family in the long run. Everybody's thinking of the short game. That whole idea of, I have to do this job even though I hate it or whatever. That's fine. If you do have to hate it, start making plays to get out. And if you have a wife or a girlfriend or whatever who's not willing to be part of this change with you, I want you to listen to me as I say this. I'm going to drop some deep knowledge on you right here. This right here is going to be probably the most knowledgeable thing you can grasp from this show. If you have a wife or a girlfriend who is not willing to be a part of the change that you're willing to be, for the betterment of you, for the betterment of your family, for the betterment of your future, if you have a wife or girlfriend who does not want to be a part of that, fuck that bitch. Plain and simple. That's my philosophy on that. Plain and simple. If they are not willing to stand by you through the hard times, if they're not willing to stand there and support you and help you push forward to being a better man, to being a better father, if they're not willing to do that, fuck them. You do not need that in your life. Do not be willing to sacrifice your life's purpose for something like that. If you have my wife, when I go up to her, I run everything by her because we are a partnership. I'm not the type of guy that says, I am man, you are woman, you do as I'm not that type of guy. I'm a guy because I understand we're in a partnership. I'm the guy that goes up to her and I say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? She's offering me advice. And I can take it or I can leave it. And I run these things by her. But the one thing that I always have from her is her support. And that's why we've been together upwards of 15 years. If you do not have if you've got a woman who's telling you that, oh, you're never going to be this, you're never going to do that, oh, that's stupid, why are you doing? If you've got a woman that's like that, fuck that bitch. You do not need her in your life. The same thing goes for you ladies. I know I got some wonderful lady listeners. If you're listening to this right now and you got a guy that's that way, fuck that guy. Plain and simple. Or fuck that. Look, I said bitch for women. Let's go with fuck that asshole. Let's call him an asshole right off the bat because that's what he is. He's not willing to support your dreams, not willing to support your future. Fuck that. You're better than that. And it's as a human being, you're not a child. You do not have to seek some sort of validation from them. No. if you're in a relationship with somebody, it's a partnership. It's a partnership where you work together. And if they are your true partner, if they're willing to be your partner and not your mommy or your daddy, then they will support you, plain and simple. But a lot of people have this innate fear of change. Oh man, and I understand that. And there's a lot of things that comes with. Job is an obvious one. People are afraid to leave a job. So they'll sit there and suffer and undergo physical means of stress where they have to go to the doctor. And the doctor's like, you're too stressed. They're like, I wonder what that's from. They say jokingly when they know it's their job. They'll even say it's their job. But do they quit? No. Do they make steps to do it? No. I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to go here one day, and I'm going to... No. One day's never going to come. You have to say you're going to do it today, or it's never going to happen. Remember, if you're not doing it now, you're probably never going to do it. People get afraid of changing their location. Well, I'm comfortable here. And no. If your goal is to be somewhere else, be there. They live in this whole idea of what if. Well, what if this happens? What if I do this and all of a sudden it changes? What if we lose our house? We'll talk about that whole idea of what if later. If you live your life by what if, you will what if yourself to the grave. As a matter of fact, when it's on your tombstone, it'll say, here lies John Smith. And then the inscription will say, what if, ... If that's how you're going to live your life. People get afraid of death. People are afraid to do things that may kill them. They may die from doing it. And I can understand this innate fear of death that people have. But it's awful funny that a lot of people who claim to be of strong faith, that's one of the first things that, I'm scared to die. I don't want to die. Well, let me tell you something. You have a 100% chance of dying. I've said that already. You have a 100%, death has a 100% success rate. He will win eventually. What have you left here? What have you left? What legacy have you left for your people, for your family, for those who know you? Because as I said, the things you do inspire others. If you can be that person that has inspired somebody to do something great, you lived a life worth remembering. When you start to create, or you start developing yourself, you start to create this sort of immunity to the fear of change. And by developing yourself, and that means developing your purpose in life, developing a strong sense of identity, who you are, what your goals are, where you're going, you develop this immunity to this fear of change. You don't care. You have this idea of, I don't care. Once you develop this I don't care mindset, you get this idea of, whatever happens, it happens. And I know that's crazy. Some people listen to this and they're going, I don't know about that. But the thing is the old Rocky quote is saying that there's nothing that's ever going to hit you harder than life. Life has the ability to just hit you so hard and put you down. It will put you down, it'll stomp on you, it'll step on you. The question is, are you willing to get back up again? Are you willing to get back up in life's face and say to it, you know what? I'm still here. I am still here. Whenever you feel to yourself that, man, life's just, man, it's kicking my ass. I don't even feel like getting up. Stand up. Look at yourself right now where you're at. If you've got a mirror available, hell, you've probably got your cell phone. Switch on your camera and look at yourself. Say to yourself, I'm still here. Life has not beat you yet. You are the one that's allowing, if life is beating you up right now, you are the one that's getting beat. You've adopted the mindset of this victimhood where you feel like, I just can't do it. Life's too hard. Yeah, life is hard. It's very hard. If it was easy, what value would life have? Most of the things that we remember in life are the struggles that we've come through. I heard the story of the great industrial man, Andrew Carnegie. And of course, he was involved, one of the richest men in history, involved in the steel industry and all that. He was an investor in a lot of things. But Andrew Carnegie had a saying he had a mindset of, I don't care. He said, you know what? You can take everything away from me. You can take my factories. You can take my money. You can take my house. You can take all of these things away from me. You give me 4 years after that, and I'll be back. That's a powerful statement right there. That's a powerful thing that we can all embrace. Looking at life and saying, you know what, you can take everything you want from me, but I'll be back. There was a moment in my life where I was living very well. It was actually shortly after I got out of school. That's not something that a lot of people can really say, that when they got out of school they were thriving. But I was thriving. I had lots of money. I had everything I wanted. And I met the wrong person and lost everything. I lost all the money in my bank account. I lost my home where I was living. And I was stuck with living in a garage that was basically turned into a room, which ironically enough is where my father had lived at one point. I was stuck living there. Sure, it was perfect. It was enough for me. And I struggled. I had all this debt. I had all these things. And man, I was beat down. And I'll be honest with you, there were times that I didn't know what I was going to do. But you know what? I'm still here. And I'm thriving right now. I'm working. And you know what? It's not because I've sat around and waited on it to be handed to me. I'm not walking around with a sign saying, I deserve this and I deserve that and give me this and the government. No, I'm not saying that. That's never been what I've said. I've worked, clawed, and I've taken my licks from life, and here I am. Here I stand looking life in the face and saying, I'm still here. And that's the way that you're going to conquer this life. That's the way you live a legacy. That's how you do it. That's what Andrew Carnegie did. That's what he said on numerous occasions. Look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been millions of dollars in debt. He's been down, he's been up. But you know what? The man's running for president right now. And you can have your opinion about him, but I'm not talking about any of that political bullshit. What I'm talking about now is the fact that he's still here. No matter what, no matter how he's been stepped on, no matter how he's been crushed, he's still here. I think about, I'm talking about masculinity here, but I will look to the feminine world. Let's look at going to a sport I love, mixed martial arts. Look at Misha Tate. How Misha Tate was two horrible, embarrassing losses. Her arms broken, beaten down. But you know what? She kept clawing and clawing and clawing. And guess what? She made it to the top at a point where she thought that life had nothing left to offer her. She was like, you know what? I'm just gonna quit MMA. I keep getting passed over for a title shot. But you know what? She kept fighting and she kept clawing, and she ended up in storybook fashion becoming the champion. You have to be willing to tell life that you're still here. You always have to have this ability that you're going to make that comeback. Never accept defeat. A saying I have in regards to prepping is, when shit hits the fan, you're either the shit or you're the fan. Those are the only two things you can be. Either the shit or the fan. What you decide to be is up to you at that moment. Number 4. This is an interesting wording here. Some people are going to hear this and go, what? Live as if your father were already dead. In my case, my father has passed on. But the concept behind this is not to live a life that is that of a willingness to please others. I touched on this a little bit earlier. A lot of people will seek validation for the things that they do in life. Do you think this is a good idea? Or do you think I should do this? And then when that person gives them a validation opposite of what they were thinking, maybe you say, hey, I was thinking about starting this business right now, selling yo-yos. What do you think? And they go, yo-yos? What are you talking about, yo-yos? You're not going to be able to pay the bills like that. And they hear that and they go, huh, all right, well, I guess they're right. No. Once again, this is the mindset of a child. This is not the mindset of a superior man. This isn't the mindset of an adult in general. The only people that have, the only person that has the right to tell you what decision you should make is you. That's it. Sure, you can respect and listen to other people's opinion. That's fine, and you should do that because it's important to always survey the field. As I talked about in an episode prior to this, having that ability to survey the landscape of the battlefield, always being able to tell what's on the horizon, and learning about this and learning the pitfalls, learning what's good, learning what's bad. These are things that are important. This is what an adult would do in any situation. But at the end of it all, the decision is up to you. The goal of all parents has always been to see their children do better than they did. That's always the goal. That's one of the things we as parents should always strive to do. If you set the example for your child as that of a go-getter, as that of someone who's industrious, someone who's always pushing forward, they will see that and they will emulate that in their own well-being. If not, they're left with options. They're left with the fork in the road that says either left or right. If they go left, they'll follow the path that you laid out before them, that they'll emulate your mediocrity that you exemplify throughout your life. Or they may decide to go right and find their own way and be that change that they want to see. Be that person that they always hoped that you embraced. For men, we have to make our decisions in our life. There's too many people that go around asking and live their lives based on the decisions of others. And a lot of times people who have not accomplished much in life will try and push that on you, want you to be what they hope they could be. And they'll push their own ideas on you. I never went to college, so I want my kids to go to college. Well, why? Some of the most successful people I know never went to college. And they don't have debt. They don't have college debt. How many people do you know that are embraced and just wrapped in the crushing grip of college debt? And they can't do anything with this piece of paper that says they have the ability to do something. They have no job experience. What ends up happening is they go and spend all this money because you wanted those kids, so you wanted your kids to go to college. For what? Other than the fact of society said you need to go to college because that's what you do. Well, no. We as barbarians, we as the outsiders, we're looking to push past that. We're looking to forge our own path. We're not looking to live an existence of being mediocre in life. And as I said, this does not mean refusing to listen to what other people say. You absolutely should. You should weigh all options. But in the end of it, the decision is yours. What are you going to do? Ask for advice. As I said, I do this with my wife a lot. I ask, what do you think about this? But at the end of it, the decision is mine. I can make the decision for what I want to do in life. And I know because she is my partner, she supports what I do. I've always thought that a good balance in life, especially as far as relationships go, it's always important to develop that balance to where you don't feel weird about talking to your wife. She's going to think I'm crazy for saying we should do this? No. She'll offer you options, and you may change your mind based on new information, but never make a decision on what other people think. As I said, the goal of all people, the goal of all children, especially the goal of all men, is to exceed what their father did. So I've spoken about my father as well. My father was a great man. He had more skill, more ability to do things than anybody I've ever met. And he was completely self-taught. He never went to college, never any of those things. But the sad part of that is that most of those skills ended up dying with him when he passed on. He passed some of them to me, but not all of them. And a lot of that was my fault. And it's one of the things that I live with and regret, is not learning more from him. But all those skills and things he developed, he never put those to use. And I'm sure some people who know my father, they're listening to this podcast, they'll say, well, man, you sure kind of talk down about your dad. That's kind of messed up. He was a good man. No. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I had conversations, some of the best conversations I had with my father was shortly before he passed away. And privately, with no one around, no filter on because his wife was there or anything like that. He had no filter. Just me and him talking, like a father to a son. And he would tell me, he looked at me dead in the face, I can still picture it, and he said, "Son, don't let your talents go to waste like I did." That's powerful. It's one of the most, of all the knowledge he gave me, that's one of the most powerful things he ever said to me. "Son, don't let your talents and your skills go to waste like I did." It's a powerful statement. He understood this life that he had lived. One of the things my father used to always tell me was, be careful. Be careful, don't get hurt. And I understand that as a child, as a father to a child, you don't want to see your child get hurt in something reckless. I understand that. But this is the other things that he told me. He lived a careful life. And he told me, he said, "Son, I lived a careful life, and I still ended up where I'm at now." Those are powerful statements. These are life-changing things. Don't be that guy on the deathbed who's looking back across your life and saying, what if I only would have? You want to instill in your kids, you want to instill, if you do have to pass anything on to your children, let it be a legacy of power. Let it be a legacy. I think the best word I can think of, I think power is too general. Let it be the legacy of a maverick. Be someone who was a trendsetter, a go-getter, someone who was forging their own path. While everyone else was walking the path already cut out through the woods, you were the guy chopping trees down because you wanted to go a different way. I think a lot of times with the schooling system we have, especially with the government institutionalized training centers, which is basically what most of your public schooling is. This is one of the reasons I work with some homeschool kids. One of the reasons I see that homeschool kids are so well put together is because they don't have that institutionalized set of learning. Schooling, public schooling especially, is designed to teach you to be a citizen. Designed to teach you to be a civilized person. You start seeing this throughout school, stand in a line, don't talk, do your homework, listen to what I'm saying, don't talk back to the teacher. And yes, some of these things are manner instances, but these are things that can be learned at home. But what happens is you start developing this idea of an authority figure that you have to listen to. And people I see this in work a lot of times. I was always the guy. Let me tell you something, my brothers and sisters. I have walked out of many a job with the closing phrase of "go fuck yourself" to the boss, because I'm not the guy that's going to stand there and let another man who's no different than me, probably a man that I could break over my leg like a twig, but I'm not going to let some other man dictate my life. I'm not going to let him become this new daddy figure that I'm trying to please. Children, especially sons, they want to please their father. When you get older as an adult, you get this same mindset where a employee wants to please the new daddy, which is the boss man. And if your boss is a cool guy, that's great. But the thing is if he's an asshole, you should be able to tell him he's an asshole. And walk the fuck out. Why can you do this? What gives you the power to do it? The only power he has over you, the only power that man has on you, is his ability to give you a paycheck. But if you have the ability to provide for yourself, what power does he have? You've stripped the power from those people that are over you and you've taken it back. You're in control of your life. This is where we start seeing this idea of the superior man. I do not need you. I can do for myself. And if you're a maverick, if you're somebody who's lived a life of not being careful, if you're somebody who's lived a life of saying, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing, you start to free yourself. You're freeing yourself from the chains. Every single time you do this, you're loosening those chains to the moment you can slide your wrists free. And you can stand up on your 2 feet, look around and say, you know what? I don't have to bow down to anybody. No one. As I said in one of the podcasts prior to this, where you're at right now, look around you. Everything you see is yours. It's yours. The only thing that's preventing you from having it is seizing it. Everything around you, the goals you want in life, they're right there. They're right there. Grab them. You have to have a sense of why. Your why has to be powerful. And that leads us to number 5. Number 5, the last of these 5 steps to being the superior man. If you do not know your purpose, discover it now. Notice that call to action at the end. I didn't say discover it tomorrow. I didn't say discover it in the future. I said discover it right now. Sit down and ask yourself, what is my purpose? What am I here for? What do I want to do in life? A lot of time your purpose, you'll find, runs in a very symbiotic relationship with what your passion is in life. What do you feel passionate about? What do you want to do? If you get this idea of having a purpose, you have a goal, you have an end goal. It's kind of like running a race. If you're running a race and there's no foreseeable finish line, where are you going? Life's the same way. It's a race to the end. The finish line is going to be decided by you. The things you do. In essence, the finish line is death. But what can we do to build up our strength on the way to the end? When you finish that race, who is going to be talking about you? What stories will they tell? One of the things, especially when it comes to purpose, you get a lot of people who fall victim to a deadly four-letter word known as can't. You can't do this. A lot of times when people say you can't do something, what they're actually saying is I can't. That's what I find in most instances. They don't have the drive. They don't have the gumption to do something. They don't have the ability, the willingness to sacrifice like you do. They're not willing to sleep 2 hours a night to push forward their goal. They're not willing to value their purpose, their passion. They're not willing to value that more than sleep. They're not willing to value that more than money. They're not willing to value that more than these little trinkets that we collect in life. No. When they say you can't, what they're saying is I can't. If they tell you that you can't, that's what I want you to immediately do, is flip that around in your head and know that they're saying I can't. You may even look at them. Maybe it'll be something that empowers them. When they say you can't, stop them and say, what you mean is I can't. And they're like, what? Yeah, that's what they're saying. Because they haven't achieved anything in life. Maybe they're stagnant in the position they're in. That doesn't mean you have to. Remember, the decision is yours. Think about somebody like Tony Hawk. Tony Hawk, legendary skateboarder, when he said to himself, I'm going to make a living skateboarding. Imagine how many people told Tony Hawk, you can't do that. How are you going to make a living skateboarding? You know, now look at him. Multi-million dollar sportsman where he's performed. The guy skateboards for a living. Has his own line of board, gear, and all this stuff like that. Video games, Tony Hawk skateboarding, all these things like that. Just because they told this guy he couldn't do it. And he proved them all wrong. Think about like professional gamers. If I'd have told you 10 years ago there'd be such a thing as a professional gamer who makes money playing video games, you said I was a liar. They can't do that. Now look at them. They're there. I remember when I was thinking about starting an archery business, I looked up online how much money you can make as an archer, as a professional archer, or running an archery business or an archery range and teaching archery. And the first thing I found, and it was validated by many other sources, was you can't make money at archery. My friends, I'm here to tell you this day they are wrong. You absolutely can. What they were trying to say is that they cannot make money as an archer. They cannot make money with an archery store. They cannot make money teaching archery. That's what they were saying. Anyone that tells you you can't, remember what they're saying is they can't do it. To ask yourself the questions about what your passion is. What's your purpose? Ask yourself what you want to do and make steps to start pushing yourself closer to those goals. Everyone in life remembers. Remember I said you want to be remembered as a maverick. Everyone remembers the maverick. They remember the hero. Throughout history, all the great men in history, they didn't follow the rules. They didn't wait for things to get right. Well, let me get this done and get that. No. All of those people started making steps. I'm recently reading, I'm planning on doing a show in the future about the privateer. I don't want to call him a pirate because he was not a pirate, but the privateer Henry Morgan. Yes, the legendary Captain Morgan. There was more to him than being named after named for rum. Captain Henry Morgan, he come from a wealthy family, somewhat well-to-do, but when Morgan made his way over to the Caribbean, his entire goal was to forge a legacy, to forge a path separate from his family, to be remembered separately from his family for the things he was going to do, the boldness, the audacity, the things he would do in life. I can tell you right now, without giving too much away, if you don't know much about Captain Morgan, let me tell you he did that. The people in Panama sure know Captain Morgan, and they know him more than just being the rum guy. Captain Morgan forged his own legacy. Blackbeard formed his own legacy. And I ask you, who were their parents? Tell me right now, the well-to-do family of Captain Henry Morgan. I want you to name his father. Name his mother. Go ahead, I'm waiting. You don't know who they are, do you? Edward Teach, Blackbeard. Who was his father? Who was his mother? Can't remember, can you? How about, I just said Tony Hawk. Name right now without looking up Tony Hawk's parents. You don't know them, do you? These people were mavericks. They forged their own path, regardless of what society said, regardless of what their parents did. They made the decision. They made bold steps, and they had the audacity to carry them out. If you think about the hero, think about like a comic book or a movie or something of that nature. Who are the people that you relate to the most? Do you relate to the guy in the background who's typing on the computer and he gets up and he goes to the bathroom, he comes back and types again, he goes home and he watches some TV and he goes to bed and wakes up and repeats the same thing over again? Or are you paying attention to the hero? Are you paying attention to the conqueror? Are you paying attention to Spider-Man? Or are you paying attention to Peter Parker? Are you, let's say Peter Parker or Mary Jane Watson. That's his wife. Yes, I'm a bit of a comic nerd. The hero of the story is the maverick. The hero is the one who's bold. He's the protagonist. He's the one that's pushing the story along. And you can look at your life as being the protagonist and life as being the antagonist. Life is going to push you, and there's a constant conflict between the two, but the goal is to make the hero win the battle in the end. So I tell you, I've heard this said many times as well, be the hero of your own movie. Whatever the hero in your own movie would be doing at this moment right now, be that. There's no reason for you to wait to see someone else play your character. Remember, do you really want to be on your deathbed with all of these ghosts of the things you could have done? Do you really want to be there listening and seeing a future that could have been? That's not the path for us. That's the path for everybody else. The barbarian is the idea of the outsider. He's doing something different. He's going against the grain. These are the things we're doing. Our goal is to be the mavericks in life. Our goal is to be those that have forged something different than what society said we should have been. If you had all the money you could possibly want, all of the time that you could possibly want, what would you do? What would you do?